Listeners, oh, you are in for a treat this week on the podcast with Life is Better With You in it, because season 3 is all about being something else. And who better to bring on this podcast than the something else herself, crazy Aunt Lisa. Hi, Aunt Lisa.
Hi, what's going on?
You know, we're just living the dream over here. And
I
so
know.
I'm happy to have you on the podcast because you are something else. And so obviously, you know, I wrote a whole book about being something else and what it means
What?
to be a little bit too much. And so, listeners, this is my aunt, like legit blood aunt. She is my mom's sister. And I wanted to bring her on the podcast. Number one, because she's in a whole chapter in the book. So she got an entire chapter written about her. And I did let her read it ahead of time. What did you think about the chapter, Lisa?
So I liked it. I am Crazy Aunt Lisa.
Mhm.
That was, and Jen's kids also call me Crazy Aunt Lisa, so that's for a reason.
It
Um, I didn't get here by chance, but the chapter explains it well.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about you, right? So if people have never experienced you before, tell us a little bit about who Aunt Lisa is. You can talk about your work, you can talk about your kids, your family. Tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe how you got here.
So I think the most important thing in my whole life would have been about family. I've always wanted kids. I wanted a family. Um, I think the most important thing is showing up for family. That's how I got to be Crazy Aunt Lisa. I'm like that at work. Um, you could ask anyone who works with me that, yes, I am the crazy one. But I also am described as the glue that keeps it together. So I think it's a good mix. Some people can handle it, some people can't. I was told the other day that, we went to this Athena Award show. It's for a person who is great in the community.
Mm.
And the director of my board was like, you know what, Lisa, you're great, but I would never put her in a room by herself with you because I would be afraid of what you would say. I was like, well, hey, that, I'm me.
Uh-huh.
That kind of explains it well.
Mm.
Some people can handle it, some people can't. But I think, just showing up for people and caring. I mean, I do social work. I'm a social worker, so uh it's always been about people for me,
Yeah.
and doing right by people.
Mm.
Uh I like um I like being there. Um, you know, Even at work, we had a lady come in who was a consultant, and she's like, you got to shake their hand and be like, "Hi, I'm Lisa Borelli," and I'm like, "No, that's not me. I'm gonna sit down on the chair next to you. I'm gonna put my arm around you.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna give you the Kleenex if you're crying. I'm gonna give you my sleeve." I'm not.
Mm.
I'm not that person. I'm the huggy. I'm gonna take care of you person,
Yeah.
not the hi, I'm Lisa Burrell. So
L-
you're gonna get the
Listeners.
real thing.
Oh, listeners, I hope you just heard what she just said, because sometimes when you're something else, you actually tell the consultant who comes in to give you advice what you're doing and who you actually are.
Yes, she never tried to tell me what to do anymore because I was like, she used me as an example. She called me up and I'm like, "Oh, you don't want to do this. You really don't
Mm-mm.
want to do this." And my boss
Mm-mm.
was like, "Oh, you don't want to do this," because she's going to tell you, how she feels. Hey, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get almost, I'm 60 years old. This isn't going to change. It's never changed.
Yeah.
I'm the same person I was, back then that I am now. And I am, I would rather show up and be there for somebody, especially, in my work. They come here, and no one comes here because they want to. They
Yeah.
come here because they need to, and they need something. So,
Tell
I have
us
to
what
meet
you
them
do,
where they are.
Lisa. Back up and tell us what you do, because you've told us you're a social worker, but maybe tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about like what your day job looks like.
So I help out of work adults go back to school to get training to get to work and help them get a job. So yeah, they aren't here by choice. They are here because of their situation.
Yeah.
And I think, that's even with life, like with you, when you have problems, you call Aunt
Well,
Lisa,
Lisa.
you're not going to get a lecture. You're not going to get,
You will kind of get a kick in the ass though. So
you'll get a
it
kick
just
in the ass
like,
when you need it.
yeah, yeah.
But
Mhm.
it's not in anything is not done in a mean way or a degrading way.
Yeah.
Um, I nobody needs that.
No, no.
I
So
don't care who you
listeners,
are.
a couple of things I want you to take note of. So when you're something else at work, you tend to tell people where you stand. So that will permeate at home as well, because I'm sure Uncle
Mhm.
Phil would tell us that that's how it happens at home.
It
And
does.
when you are something else, you're probably going to be next to people. I've, over my time, when I think about my life and my job as being something else typically means that you're for and about and around people. And so I
Yes.
think there's nothing better than being present with people. Sometimes you're probably not going to have the right words to say. Sometimes you're not going to know exactly what to do or how to handle a scenario that's new or takes you by surprise. But
Mhm.
I think one of the strengths that I've known about you is that you're with people. So like you're with us at home, you're with your people at work. And I'm sure that when you are at work and you're with these people who may not want to be there, they literally don't know that the gift they have of getting to sit with Aunt Lisa and be like, oh, I'm in like good hands now. Like she's not going to make me feel a certain way about this situation. She's going to get me on my way and
Right.
she's going to walk with me in this journey. And so tell me, let's talk a little bit about what it means to be something else at home. So you have 3 kids who
I do.
are like my babies, right? Also,
Yes.
like, I wanted to be with you even when we were going into the store. I would go anywhere that crazy Aunt Lisa was going because typically
Mhm.
lunch was involved. And
Right.
so, what do you think it means to be something else at home with your family? And maybe some tips for how you show up for your family that people can take away. Are there any tricks? Are there any like things that you do that you feel like now that you're down this journey a lot of years, right? Because typically a lot of listeners right now probably have little babies. And so
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about being something else at home.
Well, I'm telling you, to your listeners that do have little babies, don't blink
Mm,
because it goes by fast.
so fast.
Um,
Oh,
I am very blessed though that they're all three home still. They're 31, 25, and 23. I think for that, so and it probably it's probably not whatever these days, but I love cooking for them, making them dinner. I still do. I mean, that
mhm.
Dino, he doesn't get home till 10, but he's like, just make me a plate. It's always, I have a plate for them. And when they get home, I always ask who's going to be home for dinner. I think that's a big part of it. And I think, again, it's just showing up
Yeah.
and being there for them. I still do their laundry, which people would be like, why do you do their laundry? Because I do. I
Mhm.
like to. I think it's acts of service.
Yeah.
Um, you know, g- uh, God didn't come to, he came to serve.
Yeah.
And I think, even at home, that's who I am.
Yeah.
I like to serve. Uh, it doesn't bother me to do their laundry. It doesn't bother me to still cook dinner or, put away the dishes. Do I bitch sometimes? Heck yeah, they know
Mhm.
that too.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I've the one child who thinks I only do laundry once a month and decides to bring it all out at one time. Does that piss me off? Yes. But do I do it? Yes.
Mhm.
Because, he works 12 hours a day. And I think, to do those little things, even with Allie doing her laundry, she works a lot of hours. She puts in, she does a hard job. And
Yeah.
just to do those little acts of service that I don't mind doing, um, I like that. I think it is just showing up. Even when they were younger at their games, being there.
Yeah.
They know you're there. Now, did they want me there all the time? No, because Crazy Aunt Lisa came out when, they were on the football field and I had a
We're
stroke or
screaming.
whatever,
We're screaming. Mhm.
Crazy Aunt Lisa came out.
Mhm.
Would Phil sit by me? No, because Crazy Aunt Lisa came out. So I'd have to go over by myself and, on the sidelines, but that's okay because that's who I am. And, and that's how it worked out. But I think like even being at work, home, it's your presence is better than a present.
Heard. And I think for listeners, like, if you take anything away from this conversation, it's if you're something else, that's going to mean that you're going to do things the way you want to do them. So if you want to do your kids' laundry when they're a certain age, yeah, go kick rocks, do what you want to do, live your life. Like the only
Right.
person you have to answer to is you and Jesus. And so I love
Right.
how you just live for you and you do the things that you want to do and
Yeah.
you love your kids and show up for your kids how you think that they need you. You know what I mean? Like they've probably
Right.
never said, and we both know that those three kids are competent of doing the laundry, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you you take something off of their plate. So maybe when you're something else at home, you're taking something off of someone's plate. Sometimes I think when you're something else, your love language is acts of service. I know for
It
me,
is.
it's my love language to like
Right.
show is like the nurturing and like the preparing. My husband is totally capable of handling the kids while I leave to go somewhere. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to go to the store and stock up on snacks, make sure everybody has everything they need. Because for
Right.
me, it's like checking off that box of like taking care of like what's at home. And he can
For
do it
sure.
and he does do it. But like for me, it's more of like this is like my acts of service to my family. And so you'll
Right.
listeners, you may do acts of service or you're just going to do it your own way, right? There's literally no right way to parent. I bet there's 20 million
No.
wrong ways. I've tried them all. I've tried a couple, two, three of like how the wrong ways of how to parent, but there's 20 million right ways to parent. And I think that when you're something else, you're going to go your own journey in what's right for
Mhm.
you and your own family. I think
Correct.
anymore there's this huge divide between women who are like traditional wives and homesteaders and then the ones at work and then the ones in between. And it's like, no, when you're
Mhm.
something else, you have the right to choose with your husband or your spouse or your partner what your life looks like. And I write about that in the
Right.
chapter book too. Like you get to design what life looks like when you're something else. And so we've chatted a
Right.
little bit about something else at home and at work and out in the community where sometimes we
Hmm.
stand by ourselves and we're a little bit too
Yes.
loud. So listeners, if you're something else and you're a little too loud, join our club because I've also
Yes.
gotten yelled at for hollering too loud. Tell us about your maybe a small fear of public speaking and tell us about why you were allowed to speak at my wedding, but not my reception.
One, I swear. Two, um, public speaking. It is like even this is easier for me because it's Jen.
Yeah.
But uh interviewing, getting interviewing for a job, I'm not very good at.
Mhm.
I'm not good at communicating my strengths or that because I guess
Because you think you show
for me,
them versus like talk about
yeah,
them.
for me at this point, it's like, I had an interview during COVID and it was on Zoom and it was with 6 people that I've known. So and it sucked. I sucked. And I was like, it was like 15 minutes long. And I was like, oh my God.
Uh-huh.
I called one of my friends and I called Jen. I'm like, oh my God, I was horrible. I did get better for the next one, but it is hard for me. And I think that goes back to acts of service.
Yeah.
Like I am who I am. I'd rather come out and do your resume, help you with your resume than talk about
Talk
how
about
I
your
do
own.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just not who I am. It is more acts of service and putting my arm around you and help you walk through life or walk through a problem or talk you through a problem.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Well, so when you're something else, you might not love public speaking, but you'll find your own ways to be something else. And if you're
Yes.
anything like my crazy Aunt Lisa, she is something else. She gonna come on too strong and too hot and heavy. You typically always know where you stand with her, and if you don't, you just call her up and she'll tell you. And so I
Mhm.
want to share like a story about like Christmas, and like maybe we can talk about Christmas and maybe where that comes from. You're something else at Christmas, right? So my
Yes.
earliest memories of Christmas and watching these videos is where you are handing out all of our presents because your mother kind of went crazy when we were all kids of like
Yeah.
having all these presents out, and that's like permeated now to like me seeing my own, like you bring presents to my own kids and how excited you get for them, so that everyone
Right.
in the room is spun up. And so
Yeah.
what is it about Christmas for you? And tell listeners, are you secretly Mrs. Claus? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I am. I'm secretly Mrs. Claus.
We'll find a place to get a wish list. Okay.
Yeah. Christmas. That came from my mom.
Mm,
My mom always loved Christmas. Like my mom didn't show a lot of emotion.
no,
Um,
hardly.
Mimi was, stone cold. Like you knew where you stood with her because she was something else that way.
Yes. Yes.
But Mimi lived a different life than I have, and she went through some different things than I have. So as an adult, I understand that now. But Christmas to her was always exciting.
Yes.
Um, and she loved to shower you guys, us, at Christmas time. So I think that's where I got it from. I love Christmas. Like my kids' birthdays could come and go. I could give a crap less, which is
Hmm.
probably bad. Sometimes, some people like birthdays. They
Yeah, some
do,
people
they,
are about birthdays. Mhm.
they do, some people are about birthdays, not me. I'm all about Christmas. But I mean, I've already started Christmas shopping because that's who I
That's who
am.
I am.
I like, I like giving presents.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't, and not that I don't like getting them. I mean, at this point, no, like you and your mom and I going on vacation is my presents throughout the year,
Yeah. Yes.
which is an awesome gift in itself. Uh,
A gift of
cause
presents.
together yeah,
Mm.
it's our presence together, and that's a huge part of my life now. But I had to grow up and my kids had to grow up, and we get to do those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, Christmas, and I mean, but for me too, it's the whole Jesus thing too. Religion is a big part of my life, and always has been. That was instilled as a child. um Church was, and going to church, and your mom and I still, we go to church every Sunday and breakfast, and we do the things. But God is a big part in our life, and he's a big part of Christmas. So I think that's a part of it too, that Jesus gave us his best gift at Christmas. So I think I like that part, giving. I love giving gifts and getting excited because I love seeing the kids. I
Yeah.
love seeing the kids' faces.
Well, and I think that they light
Just-
up when they see you too, because I think your energy is infectious. And so listeners, how do you be something else in your own way? I think as I've written the book, I've thought a lot about that, right? I think about our past and how we're all something else, right? Like I'm something else, and then people think I'm nuts. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You have not met Aunt Lisa. You have not met my mother. So like if you think I'm mouthy, like, let me just put you in girls trip for like 3 hours and you will
Oh yeah,
understand that I am the quietest one in the room. And
right.
so, how do you think listeners can be something else in their own way, right? Because grandma was something else. I write in the book a story about her in church and how she was in
Mm.
church, and
Oh
like a
yeah.
specific example of her just like blatantly being like the music sucked.
Stopped.
Sucked.
Always,
And
yeah.
it was like, "Did you like the music?" "No." And so,
Hmm.
like, she was honest, and she was almost honest to a fault, but I think, she hid a lot of things because of the stuff that she went through, and so
Hmm.
you didn't know a lot of those stories. So You know,
Right.
when we think about being something else in our own way, do you have to be so damn loud all the time to be something else? I don't think so. But I think sometimes
No,
it comes out. What do you think
no.
what do you think you could tell listeners who you know, maybe tips to be a crazy Aunt Lisa in their own way? What are some things, or what are some maybe like three things that you're like, if you were to take away anything in this conversation of being something else and being a little bit of Aunt Lisa for yourself and for somebody else, what would you tell them?
I think being comfortable with yourself. I'm not sure there's
Mm,
three things, but
mm,
I think feeling comfortable in your own skin and eh, eh, people might not take you the way you
intend
want
them
them to
to.
take you or
Mhm.
you intend for them to. But I think if you do if you do everything with a clear heart, a clean heart, that you don't mean any harm. Um, I think that's one thing. Like, I think it's sad in this world today that people are sad.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, God, I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but I think
We're gonna
I
get
feel
emotional
bad.
when I go on to my last topic.
I I think I don't want people sad.
Okay.
And I think just people finding their own way in their own heart, they can be something else.
Mm,
Whatever they, whether it's acts of service or, I mean, I don't know, serving in your community, in your family,
yeah.
if that's what is in your heart, I think you just have to follow your heart. And it might be working,
Yeah.
it might be, I mean, I
Well, and
like
like
working.
showing your gifts. It seems like maybe
Yeah.
your tips for us are, you know, being comfortable with yourself, right? I think you and
Hmm.
I both believe that God made us all very unique. So like we don't need to
Yep.
be anyone else because this is like who we are. A lot of this
Yeah.
book, I think for me is writing it out is like, no, I am okay like this. Like it is okay just to
Right.
be something else and take
Yeah.
it as a good thing. I legitimately was at a neighbor's house, brought some desserts over, and she was like, "You are something else." And I'm just like,
Yeah, that's true.
I know, like, but like
I
also you
know.
haven't met crazy Aunt Lisa, and so she's really something else too.
Oh, I'm telling you, yeah. I mean,
Mm.
even so, we had at work, we had a pastor who started, and my boss at the time, this was 10 years ago, he's been here forever now. She's like, now, Lisa, he's a pastor. I'm like, I got it. Now we're the best of friends. He's like, how was church Sunday? Whatever, he accepts the F word coming out of my mouth and everything like this. I'm like, that's how God made me. I'm
Mhm,
like, it's
mhm.
never meant, I guess, like, it's never meant with harm or malice. It's never
No, it's just
meant
part of
to
the
degrade.
conversation.
It just comes out. And I think if people just meet people where they are and
Yeah.
accept them for who they are, then people can be their own self. They can be something else. Everybody can. Everybody is.
Yes.
They just gotta realize it.
And it seems like you use your gifts of acts of service to find people and
Mhm,
help be where they are and where they need you to
mhm,
be. So
mhm.
listeners, you know, find your gifts and use them, right? I think
Right.
we all have so many gifts. Like I don't have the gift of music. I
No.
don't have the gift of being super creative. I know a lot of people who
Nope.
are, but it's not me. I will
Right.
order it on Amazon all day long, but I do have a gift of baking. I do have a gift of talking like a crazy person. And so
Mhm,
I think listeners, you know, use what you're given because
mhm.
that's how you are something else. And so let's transition to this last part where we talk about, you know, we're being a crazy Aunt Lisa, right? There's a whole chapter about you and how you show up for others and yourself and family. And so let's talk like a little bit about being a fun seeker and what it means to be a fun seeker. You know, we don't know where this came to be, right? So I started doing some research on how did the fun seeker word come and a little bit about that. So maybe tell listeners who haven't read the book yet, and what we won't spoil all of it for them, but there's a bonus chapter about our particular fun seeker. So tell us what a fun seeker is and maybe what you've experienced.
So our fun seeker could walk in a room and light up a room with his smile. And he made everyone feel special uh, also because he showed up.
Yeah.
Um, our fun seeker has been with Jesus for 5 years. People are still talking about this fun seeker. You are going to read a chapter about him when you do read Jen's book. And he, people still take pictures and shirts that we had of him. He is, he was something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think he's something else because people still talk about him. I mean, we have lost a few family members.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who are talked about the most are Mimi, my mom, your grandma, and Jason. I'm not saying everybody else is insignificant, they weren't, but I think Jason, he lived his life for everyone else also, his
Yeah.
family. Steve, he loved, racing and all that, and he loved his family. And he showed up.
What do you think fun seekers, those who are listening to this podcast right now, who are looking for some encouragement, looking for a way to better show up for themselves, for their family, what's one thing that they can do to be a fun seeker today? Like if they were going to make one change in the world, right? Because we know that even those small acts of kindness do have a ripple effect, and then they permeate and then they spread and it's contagious. What would you tell someone to be a fun seeker? What's something you would challenge our listeners with today?
Go out and smile. You got to give your smile. It's free.
Yeah.
And not everybody, I think you change someone's perspective. They might look at you like you're goofy,
Yeah.
which, we've been looked at like we're goofy a lot of times, even when we talk to people and, or show up for people. But I think a smile costs nothing, a hug costs nothing.
Yeah.
A cookie might cost you a few bucks, but hey, that might be nice too, I think it's just showing up and smiling, and sometimes you don't feel like it. Believe me, when I go home some days, you're spent.
Yeah.
When you're something else, sometimes all day,
Your
you're
social
tired at
battery's
night.
over.
It's over, and you need the rest too. But you bring up Jason's name from here to Australia, and they know who he was, they know who he is. He's just one of those infinite people who are, if your listeners could have seen the cars going to the cemetery from the funeral home from the church, it was insane.
Yeah.
His wake was insane. It was a party, and I mean, one thing about being a fun seeker, you're a party seeker also. And Jason was a party, there was a party. So I have the holidays at my house, which is probably surprising, not. But one time Jason, I have a sink, and he rubber band the thing on the sink, so when someone turned it on, it would squirt at you. Well, I turned it on and it squirted at me, and he was rolling because he thought it was the funniest thing ever to get me all wet on the holiday. But just stupid stuff like that is just, he's just funny. There's so many Jason stories and fun seeking. I think fun seeker is it's us.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, it's our whole family.
Yeah.
Not many families, go on a girls' trip with their cousins and aunts, and at this age still, to Cancun for a weekend, and everyone gets along and no one fights. I think, even us, our families together, it's just fun. We have fun. We like being together.
Yeah. Yeah.
We like it.
Listeners,
I
I
love
think
seeing your kids.
I know, because they love you, and you are crazy, Annalisa, for them, and that's
Mhm.
how you're described to most people.
Yes.
So listeners, I think if you can take away anything from this conversation today, right? There's a whole chapter in this book that's coming out, and it's going to be out by the time this puppy goes live, about being something else, being a crazy Aunt Lisa, and how you can show up for your life. And so I hope if you take nothing away from this is that you can happen at your life today. You can show up and go smile and hold a door for someone and do something simple,
Okay.
because it will permeate. It will affect other people in ways that you may not know, and it will affect your home as well. And I think it will change your home for
Well,
the better. And so listeners, go be something else today. Go do a little fun seeking and see how you can show up for somebody today. Lisa,
yep.
thanks for having us on.
Of course. Loved it.
All right,
Crazy Aunt
listeners.
Lisa.
Yes. Life is better with you in it. And so go show up for somebody this week, because Crazy Aunt Lisa said.
Yep.